Okay, we'll start the meeting in a couple minutes. Okay, we're about to start this meeting. Thank you for all attending for Thursday, January 26th. Any declarations of conflict or pecuniary interest? I see none. Election of chair, and I turn to Deb for that, for chair and vice chair. Thank you.
Thank you and good morning. I'd like to begin the election for chair and at this time call for nominations. Member Ganzel.
I would like to nominate Bob Gale for chair.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for the nomination? Member Barrick. Member Gale, do you agree to let your name stand?
Yes,
thank you. Are there any further nominations? Seeing none, can I have a motion to close the nominations? Moved by Member Bonham, seconded by Member Caslin. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. The nominations are now closed. Could I now have a motion to elect Member Gale as chair of the Police Services Board for the year 2017? Moved by Member Caslin, seconded by Member Bonham. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. Congratulations, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
I'll now continue. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the election of the vice chair. Member Caslin. Thank you. Is there a seconder for the nomination? Member Bonham. Member Ganzel, do you agree to let your name stand?
I do.
Any further nominations? Seeing none, can I have a motion to close the nominations? Moved by Member Bonham, seconded by Member Marshall. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. The nominations are now closed. Could I now have a motion to elect Member Ganzel as vice chair? Moved by Member Bonham, seconded by Member Caslin. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. Congratulations, Vice Chair Ganzel. I'll now turn the meeting back over to Chair Gale, and he can continue with the rest of the agenda.
Thank you, Deb, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen, but Deb too, ladies. Next item is minutes of the previous meetings. I'd like to move them in block, items 1 through 3. May I have a mover and a seconder for that? Member Caslin, Member Bonham. Any comments or questions on this? On the minutes? All those in favor? Carried. Reports from the board chairperson. If I can find it there. There it is. Okay, thank you. First, I'd like to talk about the off-site board meetings that I had mentioned before in West Lincoln and Welland. I'm pleased to announce that the board will hold 2 off-site meetings this year. Building on last year's successful meeting in Port Colborne, the board wants to continue to be proactive in engaging, educating, and hearing from the public by holding at least 2 off-site meetings a year. The first will be in the town of West Lincoln on May 25th, followed by a meeting in the city of Welland on November 23rd. These off-site meetings were set in collaboration with Mayor Doug Joyner and Mayor Frank Campion as they recognize the value of having the board meeting at their council chambers so their citizens can participate or inquire into anything police related. I got to tell you, they were thrilled that we said this, and so was Port Colborne last year, so I think they all love this to happen. By holding meetings at locations other than police headquarters, it makes the board members more accessible and connected to different communities in our great region. Details will be finalized closer to each meeting date, and there will be presentations made by the service about local policing issues. Members of the community will be encouraged to attend and engage with both board members and police service staff. Now, like we did last year in Port Colborne, the way we don't allow the public up here to ask questions, but we'll do the same thing this year, pending anybody going against me on this, whereby any citizens that have questions, we'll get them in writing first, and we'll allow that because not too often do we go to these communities. And if, Deb, if anybody has any presentations like normal up there about their area and that, please let them come to you on that. Next, the OAPSB-OACP Zone 4 meeting. The Ontario Association of Chiefs of Police and the Ontario Association of Police Services Board will be holding its next Zone 4 meeting on February 24th from 8 a.m. to 12 noon at the Scottish Rite Club of Hamilton. Board members interested in attending are asked to confirm with Deb. Upcoming board meetings. The next board committee meetings are scheduled to be held on Thursday, February 9th, and the regular monthly board meeting will be held on Thursday, February 23rd. Both meetings will be held here at 8:30 a.m. in this community room. And before I conclude my comments, I have a very special acknowledgement to make. On behalf of the board, I'd like to extend congratulations to Deputy Chief Joe Matthews, who will officially retire from the police service on January 31st. Deputy Chief Matthews has had a proud and distinguished career in policing and has served this community for over 35 years with honor, integrity, and compassion. Since this will be his last board meeting, I would like to take this opportunity to publicly recognize Deputy Chief Matthews for his devoted service and invaluable contribution to the citizens of Niagara and his exemplary career with the Niagara Regional Police Service. The board thanks you, Joe, for your dedication and professionalism and offers our warmest congratulations on your retirement. Please accept our best wishes for continued success, good health, and happiness. In addition to the board's acknowledgement today, the service is hosting a retirement celebration for Deputy Chief Matthews tonight at Club Italia in Niagara Falls starting at 5 p.m. All proceeds from the event will go to Wellspring Niagara, and I know that's dear to your heart. I know the board is looking forward to attending the retirement celebration. I'll now turn to Chief McGuire for his comments, and then we'll make a special presentation to Deputy Matthews on behalf of the board and service. Chief.
A brief moment. I'll keep my comments brief because I'm going to speak this evening on behalf of Joe, but on behalf of all the members of the service, everybody here and everybody in the buildings and all our buildings right across the region, Joe, I know you know how valued your commitment to the organization, to the citizens of Niagara has been, and we thank you and congratulate you. You'll be sorely missed, but we absolutely know where to find you, and I suspect you'll be getting lots of phone calls, and we'll be mining historical data from you for several years to come. And I have more.
We're not taking his cell phone, are we?
Well, it's funny you mention that. He tried to give it back, and I'm not taking it back for a few months so that we can keep in touch and keep a transition. So we thank you for that. But on behalf of the Chair Gale and myself and the board and the service, we have a small presentation for you. And as you know, the work that come on up, Joe. Just trying to the work that I don't know where we're supposed to be standing for cameras. I guess they're looking over there. We'll go out there for a picture after maybe, but so on behalf of the service and the work that you've done in building this beautiful building for us, we've taken the opportunity to name a room after Joe, and it will be known as the Deputy Joe Matthews Meeting Room, and it's in our professional standards area. Joe's made a significant contribution to the field of professional standards here, so this is for you. We have one for you here. One will go on the wall. And this one will go home, and you can post it on whatever room you wish there. There's all kinds of jokes that can be made. We're not going to get into that here. So, Chair, is that you?
Congratulations, buddy.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations, Joe.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I guess if you want to say a few words here, you. Oh, sorry. You want to
If you have anything
get
to
up
say,
front? Get a picture?
and we'll get a picture in a second.
Come on out here.
Oh, you want now? Okay.
Take a quick picture, and then we'll get out of here.
I don't know where to look. Any comments, Joe?
Yeah, I'll make a few brief comments if I may. Thank you, Chief, and thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll be very brief. I'll have more to say this evening at the celebration, but I guess just to say that it's been my honor. I mean, it's been, the day I made the decision to pursue policing as a career was a day that changed my life. I guess what strikes me is how much it's changed. This organization, which I believe is the best organization for policing in Canada. When I joined in 1978, it was still great people wanting to help their community, but we've evolved into so much more. We've evolved into really a complex social service with complex problems. That's how much it's changed. We still have great people wanting to help their community. I have every confidence that the future of this police service is in great hands with the young officers and civilian staff. They're better educated, they're dedicated to their communities, and I think the future is in great hands. So I just want to thank all of you. I've appeared before this board and many other boards for many years. I'm a firm believer in civilian governance. It's been an honor. It's been an honor leading, with a great executive, with a great command team, the men and women of this police service. And I want to thank you all. I'm deeply touched by this honor, and thank you very much.
So would the board members like to come up here and shake Joe's hand, please? Tonight will be a busy night, so we're taking the advantage now, Joe, although we're going to be there tonight.
Picture posted on social media, Joe. Okay, thank you very much. I'll move on with my monthly report. I'm sorry, we did have another. I'm just so emotional about Joe leaving. I just can't. Lisa is going to come to the podium and has another announcement to make.
Sorry, Lisa, we both made a mistake on that. We both knew. No, please.
So I have to tell you up front, you are not getting a room named after you, just so you know. I don't have your expectations high. Also leaving on the 31st is Miss Carol Berry, Manager of Records. Member Ganzel asked us to say a few words about her today, and we did it with great honor. Carol started as a student at 15 and became a full-time member of the Niagara Regional Police Service in 1977 when she was hired as a clerk typist. In 1999, in recognition of her commitment, discipline, and solid work ethic, Carol was appointed records manager. As a member of the Niagara Regional Police Service senior management team, she has contributed significantly to overall administrative, technical, and operational successes too numerous to mention. Additionally, Carol has built partnerships with peer police services and local public sector agencies. She has received and continues to receive commendations, awards, and letters of acknowledgement and appreciation. Carol has been an active participant with the Law Enforcement and Records Management Network, LEARN, since 1994 and served as chair from 2003 to 2007. LEARN is a subcommittee of the OACP and is responsible for writing best practices guidelines for police services in the province. She was on the subcommittee that wrote the first guideline for volunteer application clearance processes and assisted police services with the implementation of Bill C-7. She has also fostered many partnerships in the law enforcement community, including the RCMP, Correctional Services, Coroner, law firms, Criminal Injuries Compensation Board, Probation and Parole Board of Canada. Her expertise and experience made her a valuable asset and the go-to person for other records managers in the province. Carol exhibits both compassion and caring and has created an inclusive work environment where employees feel valued, respected, and trusted. Her ability to provide the appropriate amount of structure, direction, and feedback has allowed her unit to soar. She has inspired members to take ownership for their unit's performance improvements. Undeniably, Carol has created professional credibility for herself, her unit, and the service. She will be missed, and I thank her for her service and her friendship. And I think she also wanted to say a few words.
Please.
read from my notes because I'm very nervous. I'll keep it brief. Oops. I would just like to express my appreciation to the chair, the vice chair, members of the board, the chief, deputies, my director, and executive staff for their support and recognition. I am proud to have been a member of this exceptional organization, and I agree with the deputy's comments that I believe it is one of the best in Canada. I felt very privileged and thankful to have had the opportunities afforded to me in my career, and I've loved my job. And it's a little overwhelming to leave after all these years, but it's time to go. Thank you so much. Don't bother. No, I could too.
I wanted, as I think a lot of you know, my career started with this police service about 4 months after you did, full-time that is. There's a lot of stories that took place on central records and communications and within the service of those days. And I think probably between Carol and I, we would probably have enough material for several volumes, and including the incident when somebody's button on a shirt flew across the room and almost took somebody's eye out. It wasn't my shirt. But anyway, thank you so much for your dedication and service for all these years, and I will certainly miss you, and I'm sure the service will as well.
Thank you.
So thank you and enjoy your retirement.
Please come on around here for a picture with Ken and Lisa. Lisa, please. So a question for Gary Holden. You're going to give her a cell phone as well. Is that, thank you. Chief, was there anything else that we forgot or that I forgot or anything or no?
I can't remember.
We're good? Okay. It's up to you now, sir.
Okay, so we'll go through the normal monthly report. I have a fair bit to talk about. I have some good news stories I want to talk about as well, so please bear with me. I'll try and keep the statistical stuff to a minimum. We did have 9 robberies in the region. There are 4 over the last month. During the month of December, 4 of them have been cleared. The rest remain under investigation at this time. For the year of January, the entire year of January to the end of December 2016, we had 1 homicide in the region, which is certainly well below the previous years. We're in the 3 to 6 range. We have had a number of traffic fatalities during the month of December, which was obviously not good for our year end, but I can tell you that at the end of the year for reportable fatal collisions, there were 16 across the region. There were actually 20 deaths, but 4 of those were medical issues that you hear about from time to time, where the driver actually passes from a medical issue, generally a heart attack or a stroke prior to the collision. It's not related, but it still gets reported as a fatality. So the MTO reportable will be 16 fatal collisions. On December the 3rd, 2016 at 5:40 in the morning, well, we've got 2 different times here. Sorry, bear with me. December 3rd at 12:54 in the morning, 2008 Ford Escape on Netherby Road or Dones Ridge Road in the city of Welland. Same time, there was a female operating a vehicle in the opposite direction, accompanied by her boyfriend who was sitting in the front passenger seat. The male in the alone vehicle crossed the center line. It was a head-on collision. As a result, the passenger in the second vehicle was killed, or pronounced dead at the scene, and the driver of the vehicle that crossed the line has been charged with impaired driving causing death. The other occupant was not seriously injured. On December 16th, 2016 at 10:05, We had a dangerous driving causing death and an obstruct police charge in relation to an incident. Vehicle responded to we responded to reports of a pedestrian being struck by a motor vehicle at Ferry Street and Sylvia Place in Niagara Falls. The 23-year-old male from Welland was operating a Ford Focus on Sylvia Place, failed to stop for a stop sign, and a collision occurred between his vehicle and a Sierra pickup truck that was being driven by a 44-year-old male from Dunnville. The Ford left the roadway, struck a 50-year-old female pedestrian. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, I think there may have been 2 pedestrians struck, but 1 pedestrian was struck and killed. That investigation is still underway. And then on December 30th, in the town of Grimsby, at 12:08 p.m., a double fatality. A 44-year-old male resident of Grimsby driving a vehicle southbound on Wolverton Road collided with a sideswiped a northbound vehicle, a GMC cargo van, being operated by another Grimsby resident. The first vehicle then crossed the center line and collided head-on with a northbound vehicle, a Dodge Caravan, being driven by a 62-year-old male from Hamilton. The driver of the Hyundai suffered fatal injuries in the collision and was pronounced dead at the scene. And the driver of the Dodge was transported to the hospital and succumbed to his injuries as well. That was a double fatality, as I mentioned. So we had a difficult time in December. There are a number of other serious collisions that have not resulted in death, but serious injury. I'll give you a little bit of news update on St. Catharines' undercover operation. In the fall of 2016, One District Street Crime started a drug investigation into a local business owner who was suspected of selling fentanyl, cocaine, and prescription medication from a tanning salon called Me Time Tanning on Hartsel Road in St. Catharines. Throughout the course of this undercover investigation, 37-year-old Michael Scarlett was charged and arrested on sold fentanyl to undercover officers on a number of different occasions. That matter, excuse me, it resulted in a search warrant at his business and residence, and further seized were fentanyl patches, cocaine, prescription medications, methadone, marijuana, hash, Canadian currency, and a prohibited weapon. And Sunday, January 8th, during the afternoon hours, we responded to complaints of a male acting suspicious in the area of Belmont Avenue, Niagara Falls. He was seen going up to houses, knocking on doors, and then going to the backyards. The fortunate resident called in and reported that. Police found the male. We responded and found him in the process of breaking into one of the residences, and he's been arrested, and that investigation continues. And I can tell you on the impaired driving issue again, 35 people were arrested and charged with impaired driving during the month of December. That's it for the kind of statistical, the normal things. I do have a few things I'd like to bring to your attention. On Tuesday this past week, I had the opportunity, was invited to the District School Board of Niagara to represent the service, where we were presented by the board with the Director's Award, presented to the service in appreciation of our partnership and commitment to supporting student success. It's addressed to the Niagara Regional Police Service, and it dealt with, one part of it was that we had just recently developed and signed a protocol with the school board, and we'll be signing the same safety protocol with the Catholic School Board next month, but it was also to recognize and honor the work of our school resource officers, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about them. Constable Dave Thiessen, who has been a school resource officer with us in the West End, has been with the program since its inception 5 years ago. So he's been there full-time, well-known. He was there, and the entire board was there to thank us for the work that the school resource officers do in their connection with kids in their schools. I have another good news story to tell you. During the month of July and August 2016, officers in one district assisted with a project PACE, which is Police and Community Engagement. The initiative produced a number of positive interactions with at-risk children residing in St. Catharines regional housing areas, and the officers kept track of it as a program that they developed so they can make more contact with kids in those neighborhoods. While completing foot patrols in the area and interacting with the children, several parents approached the officers and commented on the great work that they were doing. General topics of discussion included bicycle safety and police-related questions. And kids from 4 to 15 years of age were able to interact with the police officers, and everyone seemed to learn from that. This program was supported by Pro Action Cops and Kids. You'll be aware of the chapter that we opened here a couple of years ago. And through Pro Action Cops and Kids, we secured a $1,250 donation, which was used towards purchasing of bicycle helmets. Wise Guys Charities further provided an additional $3,500, a portion of which was used for custom T-shirts, assorted sporting equipment, basketballs, bike lights, bells, and related items. And all of this was shared with the students, or with the young kids in these neighborhoods by the police officers, while they helped them gain the respect of the police, and the police gain the respect of those neighborhoods. So we did receive a letter from Niagara Regional Housing addressed to me from Diane Wochin, Interim Chief Director of Niagara Regional Housing, thanking us for the important work that the officers do in that neighborhood, and additionally a number of photographs of the kids and our uniformed police officers in sporting events, learning, lectures, and relationship building. So it's a very important piece of what was going on. There is one, they sent me one copy of a tweet. It says, I was going to post this on the page, but she wouldn't let me, but myself and my 2 children are very thankful for Constable Jay Warner for the bicycle lock and helmet. And it's a picture of a young child getting a chance to take a look through a scout car. So that's important community relations, community safety work that our people are doing. Let me get back to where I was. Just continuing on some of the other work that I wanted to bring to your attention, that in my role with the Ontario Association of Chiefs of Police as past president, I still sit on the executive. 2 weeks ago, on January 6th, myself and the executive, including Chief Chuck Bordelot of Ottawa, who's the current president, Chief John Pear from London, Chief Brian Larkin from Waterloo, Chief Kimberly Greenwood from Barrie, Commissioner Vince Hawks, Commissioner of the OPP, Chief Mark Saunders from Toronto, and Ron Bain, the Executive Director of the OACP, met with Premier Kathleen Wynne at Queen's Park for about an hour to discuss policing and public safety issues, and issues that we had concern. There's some good things that we'd had, but some things that we wanted to bring to the attention of the government. Our topics dealt with the review currently underway by Justice Tulloch, reviewing the oversight in Ontario policing, the Future of Policing Advisory Committee, which has been underway since 2011, to get some direction, share our concerns with the government, and see that that continues to move forward. We also raised the issue that at that time we had some concern that the Minister of Community Safety and Correctional Services was enacting role due to the resignation of Minister Orzetti, and that there was an interim person in place, and we wanted the Premier to know that from our opinion of the place we are in policing in Ontario right now, the things that are underway, including the review of the Police Act and the police oversight, and street check issues and financial issues, all types of things, that we felt it was important to have a permanent properly person in that position. The Premier promised us that that would happen within days, and sure enough, by the end of the week, they appointed the new minister. So we are doing what we can to advocate, and that was our first meeting directly with the Premier. We've had many meetings with ministers, but we had an opportunity to meet directly with the Premier. And last of all, as you're aware, no doubt saw in the newspaper, and I made the chair aware yesterday, that a criminal case against one of our officers, Constable Candace Wilson, was completed yesterday in court. She pled guilty. This is the officer that was charged with point firearm in regards to an incident that occurred inside the police station on Morrison Street in Niagara Falls. And that matter is now concluded in the criminal matter. The judge, she pled guilty, and the judge, based on the comments and the information that you heard, the evidence, and the positions put forward by both the Crown Attorney and the Defense Counsel, he granted her an absolute discharge, which means that there will not be not a conviction on file, and she doesn't have any conditions on top of her. Now, that matter will now proceed through the normal process to the Police Services Act tribunal. And I believe that's all I have for you at this time.
Thank you, Chief. Anybody have any questions of the Chief of his report? Member Marshall.
Thank you. Thanks, Chief. I'm always curious about this. When you busted the tanning salon, I mean, does the surveillance lead you to the supply people, or is that an ongoing investigation? We hear about sometimes arresting people, and it just seems to be the localized drug, that carrier or that seller, not the organization.
I think in every case, the investigators will work up as far as they can if they can determine sources and where things are coming from. It often depends on whether or not they've been able to collect that evidence in the beginning or during that investigation, or whether or not the person who's now charged wishes to cooperate and provide any information as to where things are coming from. So on this specific case, I can't say, but I know that on every case they will look. And if it's something bigger than us, the local ones, like St. Catharines Street Crime would pass that information on to our intel unit. If it developed bigger, it would go on to some form of joint forces. We would share that information.
Anyone else have any questions of Chief? Thank you for that report. And Deb, there's no presentations or deputations that I know of. The consent agenda items. I'd like to move items 4 through 13 like we normally do, and any questions, you can pick off the numbers as we go. Can I have a mover and seconder, please, for the consent agenda items number 4 to 13? Member Stewart, Member Bonham. Anybody who wants to be first? Member Castlin? Which item?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item number 12. I'm just reading the annual report to do with management of police records, and I see that the annual report, first of all, is this the annual report, Mr. Chair?
In conjunction with the board bylaw.
Okay, so I guess my question is, there are 4 components of it listed A, B, C, D. I'm wondering, does this in fact address all those 4 components?
Chief, I'll let you respond to that.
I believe it does. Lisa's authored the report. If you'd like to hear from Lisa for one moment, she can just, and if you have a question, if you think there's something missing, that would be helpful.
Well, just for example, D, for instance, is confirmation that appropriate records have been destroyed in accordance with the bylaw. And in looking at that, I don't see that specific language.
The last paragraph, I think, was Gary's intent to show that we are doing it. The destruction of records requires a clear identification of record series. Records are only destroyed after physical examination sign off. He's telling you, I think he's telling you that we have the procedures in place. So the words aren't specifically in there, but it is. I think he was trying to say that through that paragraph, so maybe it wasn't clear. And also the summary of written procedures, we used to attach them, and because the document was so big, we were told not to attach them, just to show what the summary of procedures and policies are, and that's the 2 general orders. But he felt that it was, or we felt it was in compliance with requirements.
Thank you. I guess what I was looking for was a yes or no. And I see a general statement that is all-encompassing, but I was looking for, yes, we've complied with item D. But maybe it just doesn't get that specific.
Yeah, well, we'll take your comments, but yes, we have complied.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions on item 12? Member Bonham.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I note in the second last paragraph, it says the service no longer has records stored at an off-site storage facility. I'm assuming that there are some cost savings associated with that?
Yes, we had a lease at Safe Store, which we no longer have. So that was all part of the savings coming here, and we store everything that we need to store on site, and we're doing our best to electronically save as many things as we can, and for the future, hopefully that the on-site storage here will shrink.
Any other questions on this item? Okay, I have one. The lease, Chief, it's over with, or it's not going for another 3 or 4 months, is it? Thank you. Member Castlin, you still have, do you have any other items?
No.
Member Ganzel.
Thank you, and this is on item number 5. This was dealing with the deer harvest at Short Hills Park. I just wanted to commend the service for, I think, a job well done. I don't remember seeing a lot of media on this, which is usually a good news story. And it would appear that from a cost perspective, and I don't remember what we had in previous years, but I think for our costs that were involved in this, I think we were, the services that we provided out there in conjunction with the OPP, I think it was money well spent.
At the end of the report, the costs this year were $6,500, which is a reduction of $4,500 from last year. So,
I thought last year was a bit higher. Thank you.
Is that on this item, Bob? Okay. Any other questions on this item, number 5? I have one. Chief, like, when do we meet with the OPP and say this is wasting our time on this? Or I know we have to cover the area around it, but should the OPP not have cruisers there around it? Does the common sense factor come in this? Because every year the emails are outrageous that we're getting from citizens around there, let alone the costs that we have on an OPP or a provincial venture.
Yeah, it is a joint responsibility. I mean, you know, if something happens on the road outside Short Hills Park, that's a responsibility of this board and this police service. So we are obligated to be there, and it's our role and responsibility. The issue inside the park is dealt with by the OPP, because that's their land, so we don't do the work in there, and they don't do it out here, and it's, you know, it's a similar concern to, you know, on the QEW, would we stop going to accidents and collisions and assisting the OPP there because it's their property? I don't think that we would ever do that, but it's even more defined, in my opinion, at the park, because the boundaries are quite clear. It's, if you imagine the boundaries, say it wasn't the OPP, say that was the boundary between us and Hamilton, we would be obligated to work that road. So I think it's an obligation that we're going to have forever, depending on, you know, wherever the protests occur. It's part of the geography that the Niagara region is responsible for policing. And we do a lot of work ahead of time. It's not like we just get called in. We have operational plans. We meet with the OPP. We have specific meetings with them and develop operational plans long before the hunt comes. Once they advise us when the harvest is going to take place, and all we have to do is insert the dates, and we all have specific roles and responsibilities. So I don't see us ever getting away from that.
So thank you for that, and I'm not to challenge you, but to challenge the province. If they were to come back with what you just said, I'd be saying the Pan Am Games, which they knew in advance was going to happen, they gave us a grant for. In this case here, we're talking $6,000, but still, the time that it takes counselors and everyone else and the citizens around there, should the province not be asked to compensate us, or should the OPP not be involved in this? Because the Pan Am Games, I understand we take care of everything around, but we got a grant for running that. The province probably knows that they're going to do another deer hunt in a year, and it's going to cost us another $6,000 or $7,000. Is it worth us contacting the province saying, this is your baby, you know, but we have costs as a result of it for policing? Is it worth it?
Well, I'd have to leave that up to the board if you wanted to do that. My fear is we do a lot of things for different services, as you know, through shared services as well. And, you know, that may be followed by OPP sending us a bill because they help us help us protect traffic at a scene because it was actually on the on-ramp and not our property and not their property. Okay. And I'm not sure it's worth the fight, but I'll leave that to the board.
No, that's what I need your judgment on something like that. So is this on this item, there? Member Bonham?
I don't have a question. I just have a comment and observation. And based on my reading of the report, looks like from an organizational perspective, we're fine-tuning our presence, providing the same safety and looking after your responsibilities or our responsibilities with fewer people, fewer hours, and that's resulting in fewer costs going forward. So in the absence of extraordinary incidents, I'd just like to say thank you. Looks like we're headed in the right direction. We have ongoing costs, as the board chairs alluded to, but my takeaway from your report is that we're managing in a much more effective manner and reducing our costs, so thank you for that.
Is this on this item? Remember? Go ahead.
Just a quick delineation, if I could. Inside the harvest, I understand that the OPP are responsible for that portion of the policing. Is that correct?
In conjunction with the Ministry of Natural Resources.
Correct. So the Niagara Regional's responsibility then is outside the harvest. Is that correct?
Correct. Our role there is basically keep the peace, traffic safety at the entrance, because as you'll know, there are groups of hunters that are coming into the park, and there are groups of protesters. In the past, we've had times where we've had to close the road because it was in a dangerous position and there were confrontations, and you know, some of that still continues. So that's what our role is as a regional police service.
So just for clarity, and I want to be very specific, if there were no protesters, there would be no need for NRP to be there?
We'd have to assess that. It would depend on the size of the crowd. Are they parking on it would be dramatically reduced, for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions on this item? Okay, Member Ganzel, you have the floor. Do you have other items?
Item number 4, which is the Brock University Bursary Award, just to lend my support to that. I think that's a good initiative for the board and also the service to be involved with Brock, and I would certainly encourage us to move forward again with the appropriate funding as outlined in the report for this year.
Any other comments on item number 4, the Brock University? Member Ganzel? Member Marshall, you're next.
Thank you. Through you to the chief. I'm a little confused about the, item 10. sorry. There are two items of return funds. I'd like an explanation about that. But on the previous page, there's only reference to one return funds, even though they're both returned on the same date. Maybe Lisa could help me.
This is what the two reports on the return funds, please. We spoke about this yesterday, so if you don't mind, Lisa can clarify it better than I can. There is a good explanation.
About the 1540?
Yep.
The 1540 was outstanding at November, and it was still outstanding at December. That's the outstanding list, that's not the issued list. So it was issued in the previous month, and still it was outstanding for 2 months. So if you look at the actual, on the Appendix 2, where it shows the activity going out, the debit going out, the withdrawal, that's 1540. This is the outstanding list, and it was still outstanding at December 31st. That's why it's on both pages. I asked the same question.
And what is the return for?
This is the ones we reported before where there was seized so when they seize property and we deposit in our accounts, if we find that the person actually comes forward and we can find them, we have to return it. So this is the money we're returning to them.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone have any questions on item number 10? Member Marshall, do you have anything else?
No, that's it, thank you.
Anyone else have any? Member Bonham?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Report 13, marked general patrol vehicles, just an item of interest. Total number of police vehicles and kilometers traveled. I'm noting that for 2016, we have 345, excluding special activity vehicles. I'm just wondering how that compares to 2015. Are we growing our fleet, or are we holding the status quo, or how's that moving? Thank you.
Scarily, I asked the same question yesterday, and Lisa has an answer for you.
So in 2014, we're actually going the opposite direction. So in 2015, we had 346 vehicles, and in 2014, we had 351 vehicles. So we're actually decreasing in vehicles.
Thank you.
This is very scary because I just showed Deb that I have compared to other years on here. So great minds think alike. Is that the way I look at it? Okay. Lisa, can I get that in an email from you, though, please, on print, like the last 2 years of vehicles to all the board members, if you don't mind, please? Is that okay? Yeah. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Maybe we'll put comparatives in next year, but the comparatives are actually on the board's website. So last year's annual report's on there, but I can send you the details, but the board reports are there from the prior years.
Deb will take care of it then. Thank you. Any other comments on item number 13? Member Bonham, do you have anything else? Member Stewart.
Yes, I have a question on item number 6, the authorized strength. And I noticed on page 2 on the chart, we have recruit officers in training with an asterisk beside it, and I couldn't find any asterisk to explain anything, so I'm just curious of
Those are people that are currently at Ontario Police College. They're new hires.
So they're not included in the pre-hires then? They're not part of that same number?
No, they're hired and they're at the college now being trained.
Okay. Thanks.
Anyone else have questions on item number 6? The authorized strength? No? Member Stewart, do you have anything else? Anyone else have any questions on or comments on the consent agenda items? Okay, we've had a mover and seconder. All those in favor of receiving these? Carried. Now into new business, item number 14, protocol of the extrajudicial measures referral program. Can I have a mover and seconder for this, please? Member Bonham, Member Marshall. Comments or questions on this item? Okay, all those in favor? Carried. Item number 15, the Employee Group Benefits Program Award. Mover, Member Caslin, seconded by Member Bonham. Comments or questions on this item? Member Marshall, Member Stewart.
Oh, okay. I just make sure I had the right sign here. Thank you, Chair. I just have a question in the recommendation number 2 for Sun Life, and yet I know it's marginally, but Sun Life renewal was the savings were smaller. I'm just curious of why it was Sun Life in the recommendation.
So, I was expecting this question. So the renewal, the difference between the renewal is very minimal, and the transition, there would be a transition cost to that, so we figured the transition cost would cover that, would be higher than the renewal difference. Also, if you look at our recommendation, we are taking a majority of work away from Manulife, so we're leaving Manulife on the biggest portion of our benefits, because they do the whole ASO, and we'd be going to Manulife. So we figured with the little difference, it was more beneficial. Our consultants agreed, actually they recommended it was more beneficial just to stay with Sun Life for life, dependent life and the LTD premiums, and to switch to Green Shield, which we also agreed with for the other one. But it was the minimal amount, and the transition cost of going over, that would be a big transition, moving them over.
Member Castle, I think, was next. Member Bonham.
I just have a comment and a question. Firstly, I would want to suggest that perhaps a fairer comparison here would be, particularly in the first chart, Manulife's renewal versus other people's renewal, as opposed to Manulife's current and other people's renewal, so that we got a comparison of likes as opposed to dislikes. And with regard to the top chart, the recommendation is that we move to Green Shield from Manulife. We're going to save, based on the other math, about 10.6%, but my concern is that the literature suggests that Green Shield is in fact not providing the same service. So I'm wondering why they're being compared to Sun Life, Great West, and Manulife when the literature says that it's not a fair comparison because they're not going to provide the same service. Thank you.
I think, and I'll let Lisa clean up what I have to say, on the chart piece, the reason that we are able to give a renewal price for Manulife is because we're currently with Manulife. So that's what the renewal price would have been for this year. So I don't know how we could create a renewal price for a company that we don't use, unless I misunderstood you.
Now, just for clarification, I think we want to compare and contrast costs going forward. I understand what Manulife's charging us now, but for the coming year, they're going to charge, I don't know, roughly $40,000 less, as is Sun Life, Great West, and Green Shield. So I'm just suggesting, Chief, that a better comparison is future costs across the board. And when I do the math there, Green Shield is going to be a savings of 10.6% versus 14.9%, still substantial. But my concern is that based on the literature, I don't see it as a fair comparator because Green Shield is not going to supply the same depth and breadth of service that Manulife, Sun Life, and Great West Life are apparently providing. So I'm questioning why we would be moving to Green Shield. In my opinion, based on the literature, we're not comparing apples with apples. Thank you.
Okay, I got to turn it over to Lisa because I believe we are. We have not. We're not permitted, I don't believe, by the collective agreement, and I don't believe we've reduced the services available for benefits. So I'll let Lisa speak to that, and then maybe you can clarify, unless I'm just missing it.
So just getting back to the chart, which I'm not going to debate, I get your point. This is a chart that was provided by this is because we went to market, and this is standard the way they show it. If we hadn't gone to market, we probably would have been renewed pretty much at the same rate, but going to market gave us the decrease automatically, which scares me, but I don't see where you're reading that. I think you may be misreading something because the benefits are exactly the same. We actually interviewed each of these. The benefits are the same. We went by transition. We went by employee service. We went by transition team to move it over. I'm misunderstanding what you're, I don't think you're misunderstanding something I wrote. Maybe misunderstanding.
That's probably a better way of putting it. I didn't write it. I'm just reading it. Under report, the second sentence says very clearly that Green Shield specializes in yada, 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 and as such, quoted on these benefits only. So if others are quoting on administrative costs for a greater breadth of service than Green Shield is, I'm questioning why Green Shield would be in this comparator. Thank you.
Okay, so Green Shield is only in the Green Shield was only, we separated quote, our RFP that went out, and it was separated between the dental, health, dental, and HCSA benefits. So that was, we separated them because we always do them separate. So we separated them out between that and life, dependent life, and LTD, which we would normally do. We separated the two out. Green Shield just doesn't offer life, dependent life, and LTD. So that's why we're saying they only quoted on that one. The other ones were not quoted on together, they were quoted on separately. So Sun Life quoted separately for the two, Great West Life quoted separately for the two. They were quoted separately, so we don't consider them the same. All we were saying in that statement is, they just don't offer those other services, so they didn't quote on them. It's not that they don't offer them and they're offering less services, they just don't quote on that service. So we're not, any changes to it.
So not to belabor this much longer, but my question, I guess, is Green Shield's quote apples to apples in terms of service and administrative costs versus Manulife, Sun Life, Great West Life, or not? Thank you.
100%, it's exactly the same comparing. That's comparing only the health, dental, and benefits, and the bottom is comparing life, dependent life, and LTD. It's exactly the same, apples to apples, same service.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any comments or questions on item number 15?
If I could just add, just very briefly on that, just for what it's worth, maybe perhaps nothing, perhaps something. Toronto Police also, just as at the beginning of this year, and the region of Niagara went to Green Shield. And Toronto Police was with Manulife. I believe the region was as well.
Thank you for that. All those in favor of this? Carried. Item number 16, Know Your Neighbors Program. A mover and a seconder, please. Member Ganzel, Member Marshall. Comments or questions on this? Member Ganzel.
I'll start with some comments on this first. I think this is an excellent program going forward. It is Niagara and Lake, obviously because I live there, we'll always consider ourselves unique, even though I suspect that may not be always the case. But we are a small community, closely knit, and I suspect that this program will probably get a lot of traction. My main comments is that there is a Niagara and Lake Community Safety Committee, and in transparency, I do sit on that committee as a member, as do two members of the Niagara Regional Police Service, Constable Gina Allen and Sergeant Bill Shoenails. In looking through the report, I see no reference to the Community Safety Committee, and it is doing a lot of good work there. We have a member of a Niagara Regional Police drug unit going into a number of the grade schools on a Say No to Drug program that we're running. We're also doing the Lock It and Lose It campaign. In fact, we'll be running another event of that, I think, on the first weekend in February. Again, I think the inspector here is supporting us on that. I think he's actually personally coming out. So what I would like to do is change the recommendation for this, and it would read slightly differently. So this is a motion that I am making here. That the board receive for information the crime prevention campaign report, and further that the police service will work with the Niagara and Lake Community Safety Committee to develop and or implement this plan, and further that the service will report back to the board in writing on the progress. So this puts the work being done, the heavy lifting being done on the shoulders of the Community Safety Committee within Niagara and Lake. And I would thank Superintendent Bench for providing me the woman's contact information. It was not on here. And on approval of this, then the Community Safety Committee will reach out to Sandra Nass and work with her directly on moving this forward. So that's my motion.
Okay, we have a mover there and a seconder, and then the chief would like to make comments. Can I have a seconder for this motion? Member Marshall. Chief, do you have comments?
Respectfully, I think my suggestion would be this was a community-generated opportunity that came forward from Ms. Nass, contacted the police. The police involvement is fairly limited, and it's more that based. I'm just wondering if it might be better for your committee to invite Ms. Nass to come and demonstrate to the program to you at your committee. Certainly, we could have a police officer attend along, rather than, I don't think the goal was for this to become a police-owned event, and I fear that might be where we go if we go down that road where we're coming back and reporting here.
And I'll agree with you on this. I'll get Member Ganzel's comments, because this started because I wanted to invite her here to explain this to us, because it sounded so good, and Ken said that he was involved with the committee already at Town of Niagara and Lake. And so my comment right off the bat was, why didn't someone go to the town and explain this, because Ken's on that committee. So I'll agree with you. Member Ganzel, you have comments to what the chief said?
Yeah, I'm understanding what he's saying on that. So I think if I modified this motion slightly, that the service which does work with the Community Safety Committee and to develop and implement the plan, and then at that point in time, just put a full stop. There's no report required for the service back to the board. So if we delete what I had further said there, where I had the "and further," but the service will report back to the board, just delete that ending part of that sentence. So it basically transfers the responsibility to the community, to the Niagara Lake Community Safety Committee to run with the project?
I think that's fine. I think what we would do is, we could start, if you want a motion for that, I think you could accept the report myself, and we'll do that. We'll get the officer to get in touch with you, and maybe at the next meeting, you do have an officer that attends those meetings, and put this proposal on your agenda, invite Ms. Nass to your meeting. So I'm happy whatever you want to do. I don't know if it needs to be that formal. We're going to follow through. We'll make an appearance at your committee along with Ms. Nass, provided she wants to.
So Deb is saying that let's just use that as direction, if that's okay. Member Marshall, you were the seconder. That's okay with you? Any other comments or questions? Oh, Member Marshall.
Yeah, through you to the chief. Is Crime Stoppers operating in Niagara-on-the-Lake right now?
It operates throughout the region, yes.
So we've got 3 different organizations in Niagara-on-the-Lake that are working towards the same goal, safer community?
Well, I think there's lots of organizations working towards safer communities, and they all kind of have their own niche. Crime Stoppers is to take tips, and as I read this, it's more along the lines of just getting neighbors to know each other so they can keep their eyes out in their own neighborhood, and if they see things, report them. So the same goal, perhaps, but just similar. Yeah, it's similar to, like, you may recall the old neighborhood watch programs that have gone. So it's just I think it's just a matter of a community engagement piece in the community.
But if we have police that have to sit in on all of the meetings, doesn't that fragment, the police? Wouldn't it be better if we could get the 3 organizations or 4, or how many there are, working together and reduce the amount of time that's required by the police to attend?
Yeah, the only thing we attend is this committee that Ken has spoken of in Niagara-on-the-Lake, and the police officer doesn't. It's not a full-time role per se. It's a couple times. I don't know how often you even meet, once a month. So I think we're okay the way it's going at this point. As far as Crime Stoppers, Crime Stoppers is independent of the police. We have one person that works with Crime Stoppers, which is a position, but outside of that, there's not a lot of commitment. It's community engagement, community-driven agency, which we kind of like because it doesn't put a big onus on us.
But that sounds exactly like what we've got in Niagara-on-the-Lake right now, but 2 different organizations working towards the same goal. Anyway, I'll accept your response, Chief.
Member Ganzel.
And just not to go into this any much deeper, but the Niagara Lake Community Safety Committee is what was originally called the community policing committees that existed, I think, in a number of the municipalities in the region. Niagara Falls, St. Catharines, Welland had them. Niagara Lake Town Council at the time decided to keep it going, rebranded with a different name. We're involved with Neighborhood Watch, even though that doesn't have as much traction as in past years. This Know Your Neighbor program would just be an additional item to bring under our wing to look after, same as Lock It and Lose It. As the chief is quite correct, the tip line or Crime Stoppers is something we've never even mentioned, and it's not an item or a program that we're aware of, but we don't run it or whatsoever.
Okay, thank you. So this is admirable of Mrs. Nass to bring this ahead, but there's direction by Member Ganzel, seconded by Member Marshall. Deb, do you just want to read out what direction is on this?
I've just noted that the direction will be that Mrs. Nass and the service will work with the Niagara on the Lake Community Policing Committee to talk about this program initiative.
All those in favor? Carried. Item number 17, fundraising request for the I'm sorry, Member Bonham?
Yeah, just another comment. With regard to this program, it appears, as others have noted, that it's a variation of neighborhood watch, block watch, that sort of stuff, predecessors. But I'd like to highlight that not too many years ago, there was an individual, I believe in St. Catharines, who intervened and engaged a stranger in the driveway of a neighboring house, who ended up, unfortunately, as a fatality. So I believe it was St. Catharines. Was it Hamilton? Okay, so I'm just concerned that this, we're not supporting active intervention in any way, shape, or form, or at least I don't think we should be doing that. And I don't know where this program's limitations are, but I think it should be made very clear that if we are involved, we're not actively supporting that a neighbor go out and engage a stranger and perhaps have that kind of an incident happen again. So I'm just wondering where that is with regard to the intentions of this program and whether or not we're going to be actively convincing people and talking to them about not engaging but simply watching. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Item number 17, fundraising request for the Constable Dale Racine Educational Bursary. Can I have a mover and seconder on this? Member Stewart, Member Ganzel. Comments or questions on this item? I have one question. This is a win-win. We, Chief, to you on this. So we're approving that the service will volunteer their time to make money from a trivia night for the educational bursary.
That's correct, and this is in the honor of Dale Racine. Perhaps, I believe, before some of the board members were here, was one of our officers, a Marine unit, highly qualified Marine expert who passed away from cancer, I think in 2012, probably, because it wasn't long after I got here. And his wife, Lisa Racine, in fact, works in our forensic identification unit, and you would know her. She's the lady that's always here taking our pictures.
Yep.
And so this was launched by a group of officers, and it's carried on for years, and we've raised good funds, but the bylaw advises that we have to inform you, so that's what we're doing, and it is an excellent opportunity.
Well, our compliments from the board on something like this is nothing but good, so. I had a mover and seconder for that, did I not? All those in favor of this? Carried. Item number 18, special fund request for the NRPS female hockey team. A mover and seconder, please. Member Caslin, Member Bonham. Comments or questions on this item? All those in favor? Carried. Item number 19, Ontario Association of Police Services Board membership renewal. Mover and seconder, please. Member Bonham, Member Stewart. Comments or questions on this item? Member Caslin.
So not knowing a whole lot about this particular organization, does it provide any value for us, or are we members just because we have been for a long, long time? Does anybody use the services, and who uses what?
I'm going to be the first to answer that, because it's one of these things that I agree totally with your question. One of these things that we should belong to. They have their board meetings, they have educational items on it, and as well, every service is a member of it. But many times we look at the value on this and that, but I'll let anyone else want to respond to this? Member Stewart.
Just a point of clarification, I represent Zone 4 on the OAPSB Board of Directors, and I'm currently the treasurer for that group. The organization itself came out a number of years ago, well before my time, as an organization to represent police services boards in advocation to the government. The organization has tremendous connections with the government to put forward positions from police services boards and all of that towards the government. We've been active in the FPAC, which is the Future of Policing Advisory Committee, as a representative, and the organization is the go-to group for the ministry on governance issues and looking for input on that particular area as well. So the organization represents us. Prior to its existence, police boards were sort of a scattered group around the province without the opportunity to collectively, put positions forward towards the government for change. So in other words, it's probably like the police board's version of an AMO or one of those type of organizations. So it holds the value in police service boards compared with, the municipalities, of course, have their organizations that they use for advocating positions provincially.
Yeah, you have the floor.
So the largest municipality in Ontario, Toronto, is not a member of AMO, and to be honest, I don't see any value for Niagara in it either. I'm just wondering what is the downside if we saved the $5,366 and did not rejoin this? What would we lose in Niagara?
I'll attempt to answer that as well. At a time when they're opening up the Police Act and we're trying to get together with other forces to have input with the ministers on changing this, and this is going slow as molasses, I think now is not the time to get into it, but I agree with you wholeheartedly. I look at FCM, I look at AMO, I look at all these things and wonder what we benefit from. But of all the years, I don't think we want to get out of this. It's this year with the Police Act coming, because at the last OAPSB meeting, we talked about a group getting together about, we're talking about suspension of officers with pay and things like this, and it's better to have a force than just little Niagara standing up in front of them. Anyone else care to answer Member Castleton's question at all? But that's my opinions of it. This is the year that we don't challenge it, maybe next year, but.
I appreciate your comments, and I appreciate what you're trying to say, but I can't support this.
Okay. Member Bonham?
I guess the only comment I'd make, one, I've only been to one meeting, but it is an opportunity to interface with other people from other boards, and it is what you make it. If you talk about nothing of substance, then I would certainly agree with Member Caslin that it wants for any reasonable support for the monies expended. However, it has an opportunity for member boards to bring issues of substance forward for some good, healthy debate, hopefully concurrence, and a united front bringing them forward. So my view of it, having experienced it but very little, is that it is what you're going to make it. If you make it nothing, it will be nothing. Thank you.
And I also think that, I know the last one we had up in Collingwood, that's when I brought up about sharing services amongst other boards, and Andy Pringle was going to carry that because of the last meeting I couldn't attend because we had a meeting here. If we can save one thing, it pays for the $5,300 or whatever it is, but I think your principles are totally correct on how you're challenging this on every board we belong to as a region and as a police. I'd like people to have questions like you have on this. So, any other comments on this item? All those in favor of it? All those against? Carried. Next is item number C279, which is bringing an item from in camera to public, the Memorandum of Understanding for Search and Rescue Niagara. Can I have a mover and seconder for this item, please? Member Bonham, Member Ganzel. Any comments or questions on this? It's just to move it public. All those in favor? Carried. Then we go to the supplemental items, item number 20. I'll let you find it. It's the Ministry Inspection, Investigation, and Reporting of Firearms Discharges Causing Death or Injury. Could I have a mover and seconder on this item, please? Member Bonham, Member Ganzel. Comments or questions on this report? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Item number 21 on the supplemental agenda, the Police Services Board Licensing Bylaw Amendment. Mover and seconder on this one, Member Bonham. Turn it over this way. Seconder, Member Barrick. Comments or questions on this licensing bylaw amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Deb, and that's it for public agenda, Deb? Okay, we'll move in camera next. Thank you. We'll take a 10-minute break while they turn off the cameras and things like this. Thank you.